Denise. Denise. It's Denise. It's Denise. It's Denise. Denise. It's a podcast party. It's a podcast party. It's a podcast party.
I gotta say, I feel like we're besties now after this. What's up, guys? It's Denise Salcedo. What is up, everyone? Welcome to Speak Now Pro Wrestling. I'm Denise Salcedo, and today we're going to be talking about the November 2nd edition of WWE NXT 2.0. And this was rather an interesting show. I thought they made some interesting decisions, and we're going to go ahead and talk about everything that went down on tonight's show. I think for the most part, if you have been into the direction that NXT has been moving in, I think you probably like this show. If you've been sort of hoping to see shades of that old NXT on NXT 2.0, I think this show is probably not for you. So depending on how open-minded you are and how you've been feeling about the NXT 2.0 product thus far will depend whether or not you enjoyed certain aspects of today's show, because we had flirtation, we had dancing numbers. I mean, a kind of a bunch of like random stuff thrown into this episode, but we're going to go ahead and talk about that all here. But before we get started, I want to welcome you all to the show. And friendly reminder, I do go live on Tuesdays, every Tuesday, to talk about NXT. Tomorrow, I do come back to talk about AEW Dynamite. And then Fridays, I am here to chat both Smackdown and Rampage. So we're getting the week started here today with NXT, of course. But we're going to kick things off with our first super chat of the day, and then we're going to go ahead and talk about the show in a nice chronological format. So our first super chat of the day is from Nick Grasso, who says, I like what they are doing with Dakota Kai. It's like Randy Orton and Broken Matt Hardy rolled together, and Io is a perfect opponent for Mandy. So we're going to get into Dakota Kai, Io, and Mandy and all of that in just a second, but I want to say so far, based on this comment that we just received from Nick, I have to agree. I like what they're doing with Dakota Kai. And I have some interesting or some predictions sort of what I think they're doing with her character, because if you remember when she was going up against Raquel Gonzalez, a lot of us were rooting for Dakota Kai. She was supposed to be the heel in that whole feud, but a lot of people kind of saw her not like as the face, but a lot of people were rooting for her like if she was the baby face in that story. And now, now with what she's doing right now, it kind of feels like we're sort of like, she's still supposed to be a heel based on what we've seen so far, but I almost feel like she's not totally a heel, and we'll talk about why in just a moment once we get to that segment. But I kind of like that they're sort of like really, really showing like this human side of Dakota Kai, and really just showing kind of her like good and evil at the exact same time. And I'll explain that more once we actually start talking about Dakota Kai. But thank you so much to Nick Grasso for sending in this super chat. We got another one from CT who says, first time watching NXT 2.0. What the F was that? This was your first time watching NXT 2.0? Look, if this was your first NXT 2.0, I almost feel like you were not ready just yet. Like you kind of went into an episode where they tried some stuff out that we haven't necessarily been seeing on previous episodes. So if this was the first NXT 2.0 that you saw, I think you were probably going to be a little bit caught off guard, that's what I got to say. I think you got to have to ease your way into it because this kind of felt like the most NXT 2.0 episode that there has been thus far. So thank you so much to CT for sending in that super chat. But we're going to go ahead and talk about everything that goes down. So let's kick things off, guys. All right. So first and foremost, also before I get started, I just want to remind you all to take part in the chat. This is a very interactive show. So send in your thoughts, send in your comments, and I will be reading them as we go through the entire show because I want to get your opinions and what you think as well. All right. So here we go. We kick things off with the brand new NXT Women's Champion, Mandy Rose. Now, I know some people weren't necessarily all that crazy about Mandy Rose becoming NXT Women's Champion, but I gotta say, I was definitely one of those people that was like, you know what? I'm, you know what? Given the fact that I know and that I understand that this is no longer the old NXT and that we're moving on to an entirely different direction, I think it's perfectly fine that they made Mandy Rose NXT Women's Champion. And additionally, I think she's so far doing a pretty good job because she's had me interested. When she first came into NXT, when she came back to NXT from the main roster, to be honest, I saw that as a demotion. I thought she was getting like demoted, but based on what she was doing when she was on Raw and based on what she's doing right now on NXT, this has been the best thing that has happened to Mandy Rose. And now she gets to now she's essentially the face of the NXT women's division. And that's kind of like, that's pretty huge, everybody. That's huge. So she comes out, looking gorgeous. She comes out, she has the belt, on her shoulder. And it kind of does take you a while to be like, oh, shoot, man, like Mandy Rose is the champion now. But anyways, she kind of has a little bit of a mixed reaction from the crowd. So Mandy Rose is clearly a heel. She's supposed to be a heel, but I kind of feel like the Capitol Wrestling Center people are a little bit mixed. Like you have people that are booing her because they understand that she's a heel, but there's people that I think that are also cheering her because they like what she's doing. And even though she's supposed to be a heel, they're kind of rooting for her because I feel like she proved everybody wrong, or at least a lot of people wrong. Like me, for example, who thought she was getting demoted by moving on, for being sent over to NXT. So I do feel like she kind of proved a lot of people wrong, and now she's coming out here as champion and as the face of the NXT women's division, and it kind of means a whole lot. So she basically tells the people that, she said she was going to do this, and she did. All right, great. Then we see she basically, talks a little bit about this, talks about winning the NXT Women's Championship, etc. The promo work itself was fine. It was okay. It wasn't anything, out of this world. But you know what? She did her. And she tells the people like, oh, I know you're wondering why Toxic Attraction isn't with me because she came out by herself. And I like that she came out by herself because it's like, her coming out by herself, I think she needed to have this moment now as champion. She needed to have that moment by herself. She didn't necessarily need Toxic Attraction right there, right next to her to sort of steal some of that spotlight. And additionally, they kind of kept things moving because they showed Gigi and JC essentially attacking Zoe backstage. So that's what we see. They cut to that, and then they cut back into the ring. Io Shirai comes out, and she basically tells Mandy Rose that she wants her right then and right there. And Mandy Rose, for a second, you honestly believe that she's like, all right, fine, let's do this. And for a second, I fell for it. I thought we were going to legitimately see Io Shirai versus Mandy Rose, and I thought, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. Okay, fine, let's get to it. She tosses the belt and she makes it seem like she's actually going to wrestle Io Shirai. But instead, when Io Shirai is sort of caught off guard, Mandy Rose essentially like sucker punches her and essentially gets the upper hand. And if you remember what happened last week, Io Shirai practically like nearly died during that ladder spot. So she's obviously not 100%, which thus allows Mandy Rose to get the upper hand. And I got to say, I kind of love this attack on Io Shirai. Like, I know we don't want to see Io Shirai in these positions on the roster because she could do so much more. And, she's proven time and time again that she's fantastic, right? But I love this for Mandy Rose. I really did, because the attack that she gave Io Shirai was brutal. There was a moment where she just like speared her like right into the to the side of the ring. She just like runs her right through there. And I'm thinking like, okay, I love this. I love her attacking her the way that she did. It makes Mandy Rose just seem a little bit more edgier. And that's the thing that she's doing that I think is really working. Now, the one thing that I did not like, and this is why I didn't like it, so after she like rams her into the ring, she gets her back into the ring. So Io Shirai is practically lifeless. She's on the mat, and Mandy Rose takes the microphone and she basically says, "This ain't the old NXT, honey. This is NXT 2.0. Now, I loved that she said that. But then they kind of killed it when she said, "You will never look like me." So she said, "This ain't the old NXT, honey. This is NXT 2.0, and you're never gonna look like me." I loved the first part of that line, but I did not like the second part of this. And the reason for that is I kind of wish that, because Mandy Rose has been talking about how she's gorgeous. And, that's the whole premise of toxic attraction, is that they're so gorgeous. Thus, this makes them a toxic attraction. Okay, cool. I like all of that. That's fine. But I kind of wish that Mandy Rose would use the looks thing instead of basically saying like, "Oh, I'm better than you because I'm hotter than you." I kind of wish you would say that people underestimated her because she was an attractive woman versus, "Oh, I'm better than you because I look better than you." That to me does not make sense. And we all know that Io Shirai is a million times better in the ring. We know that, right? We know that. That's fine. But I kind of wish that Mandy Rose acted more in terms of like, "I'm better than you. That's why I'm champion." But making herself believe that she's on the same level as Io Shirai versus it just being about looks. And this was one of the conversations that we were just having on the Raw, the post show on Fightful, basically talking about how they always make every single like women's angle about like who's prettier and who's not prettier and who's ugly and who's not ugly. So I wish they didn't necessarily do just that. I kind of hope they kind of strip that away and make Mandy Rose more of a, "My looks distracted you, but you know what? I'm more than just my looks." So that's the only thing, that's honestly the only nitpicky thing that I would probably say about this. But other than that, I liked this. And even then we saw Toxic Attraction and Mandy Rose essentially beat on Io Shirai. And then we see Casey and Kaden come out to help even out the odds. And they already scheduled a 6-woman tag for next week. We're going to be seeing Toxic Attraction versus Io versus Casey versus Kaden. I'm looking forward to that because Casey and Kaden have been a pretty good tag team. And for the most part, I think they're all 6 women together are probably going to do a pretty decent match. So guys, for those of you who are watching in the live chat, go ahead and send in your thoughts. What are your thoughts on Mandy Rose? What are your thoughts on her so far as champion? What do you think about what I had to say about the whole line that she said about NXT 2.0 and her not being, her not looking like Io Shirai? Go ahead and send in your thoughts. Let's go ahead and get some comments in here. All right. So first and foremost, we got a couple of different comments on here. We got a lot of new people checking out this show, by the way. If this is your first time checking out the show, thank you very much. It's always very exciting to have new people coming on here. But we got one from Darth Steven C777 who says, "With Io going for the title and Zoe getting jumped by Toxic Attraction, I wonder what this means for Indy and Persia." Look, in terms of Indy and Persia together as a team, they work, right? They work. Unfortunately, Persia's still a little bit too green, and so is Indy. But Indy is still just a tad bit less green than Persia. They do need a little bit of work. In terms of like top tag teams, I would still definitely put Casey and Kaden above them because they are just a little bit better in the ring and just a little bit better overall. But they have something there they've done so much character development with Indy Hartwell, where I don't want to necessarily see all of those months of character development essentially just washed away. And I don't think they are. I think for the most part, they see a lot in Indy Hartwell. And I've grown to like Indy Hartwell like more each and every week. So I hope they don't forget about Indy and Persia in this situation. Now, in terms of Zoe and Io, I hope that they no longer have them team. I'm sorry, but I was not a fan of them as a team. And the only reason for that was because they made me not be a fan of them as a team with we've talked about this for weeks, how they gave them that weird, "we don't get along, we can't coexist" thing for like no reason that came out of the blue. So because of that, I'm kind of like, all right, now that they don't have, the tag team belts, go ahead and separate them. We don't necessarily need to see them together anymore. Like, I'm cool right now. Like, if they couldn't get along like as champions, then I kind of don't want to see it now. I wouldn't mind seeing like Zoe and Io have a program of their own. I think that would probably make sense because, they can kind of be like, "You know what? We could have still been champions, but we just couldn't see eye to eye with each other." I don't know, something like that maybe. "We couldn't coexist, so now I'm pissed and I'm getting revenge on you because we couldn't coexist this whole time." But anyways, thank you so much for Darth for sending in that comment here. And this one is from Raymond Kosos, who says he really has to suspend disbelief for Io to lose one-on-one to Mandy. And unfortunately, that's going to be the case, and that's going to be the case for a lot of these matches. I think that, and that's part of the reason why the way that they had Mandy defeat Raquel and even adding the stipulation, with the weapons and all of that, that really protected Mandy. Having Dakota Kai essentially come in and hit Raquel, that protected Mandy as well. But here's the thing, I don't want to discredit Mandy entirely, because if you were here for my Halloween Havoc review, I really felt that Mandy held her own during that match. Like, there wasn't any moment where I felt Mandy didn't necessarily deserve to be in this match, or Mandy looked lost, or anything like that. Like, she held her own in this, and I gotta give her credit there. But in the sense of like, oh, can she defeat, somebody like Io Shirai one-on-one in a clean way? I have to agree in the sense where I have to suspend my disbelief as well. But that's the challenge now. Now that they made her champion, they gotta essentially basically make us. They gotta make they gotta convince the audience. And that's gonna take a lot of work, but they gotta convince the audience more so every week that she deserves that championship. They gotta find ways. And I think so far with what they're doing, they've made it a little bit easier for me to suspend my disbelief, but it's still gonna be a little bit more, obviously. If she's in there, against, I don't know, Indy Hart. I mean, she wouldn't be there against, well, okay, let's just say Indy Hartwell, for example. Okay, fine. I can buy that one a little bit more, but still, with Io Shirai, it would be a little bit more of a struggle. Mac Hensley says, Mandy has gotten so much better, and she really does deserve a title. I wouldn't want to boo her if I was there, and I'm loving her character. Her and Io should be a good program. And I want to add, too, that Io is probably one of the perfect people to obviously put her in a program with, because Io, her defeating Io is going to add credibility to her. And like I said, they got to do it in a convincing way. They got to get creative. They got to come up with some ways to, obviously protect Mandy as champion. But her defeating Io, and if they do it in a smart way, I think will add a lot of credibility to Mandy, and credibility that Mandy needs. But so far, she's been proving herself, guys. She's been proving herself. Thank you so much to Mac for sending in that thought as well. And this is a comment from Sour Machine Gun, who says, Mandy's whole character is, I'm a champ because I'm hot. So actually that line she said to Io works for her. Yeah. So I get what you mean by that, because that's the whole premise of the character, but I wish that wasn't the premise of the character, because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. I wish that she would instead, like I said, use the whole she could be like, yeah, you know what? Cut a you people promo at this point. I don't know. Basically, her just basically saying that the people essentially thought that she couldn't be at this level because of her looks. Kind of like people expect pretty women to not be able to do, things, that sort of thing, because it's just not believable to say I beat you because I'm hotter. Like, that doesn't make any sense at all. Even that, if that is her character, it doesn't make sense. So for her sake, and for her to grow as a champion, and again be more of a credible champion, I think they gotta tweak that a little bit, guys. They gotta really tweak that. This is a comment from PK Batman 420, who says she's doing. In regards to Mandy, says she's doing great right now, has really improved over the past few years. So far, everything that I've liked, everything that Mandy did when she was, feuding with Sonya, when she was doing that stuff with Otis, it really showed a lot of her range. So that was good. And I mean, what she was doing with Dana Brooke had potential on Raw, but unfortunately, they didn't really give them much to work with. So in comparison to that, obviously, what she's doing now is a world's better. We got a comment here from Mega Geek Mixer, who says that Casey and Kaden should be the next NXT Women's Tag Team Champions. I agree. I think that they're definitely en route to that, honestly. And this is a comment from Suplexorcist, who says, love that they're actually letting Mandy wrestle. Hopefully she puts on a banger with Io. I think she will. Honestly, I think she will. I think that Io is the perfect opponent for her, again, because she can, obviously, Io is so experienced, and that's going to help Mandy Rose a whole lot, being in the ring with somebody like Io Shirai. So I got to say that I think that's a good one. And let's go through a couple more comments here. And I'm going to go through this one. This one is from CT, who says, I'm all for NXT being developmental if it means new talent. Ricochet, Shinsuke go straight to the main roster. I guess the entertainment here is watching them progress and develop. Yes and yeah, like I can see that. Like obviously these people are progressing and they're developing and all of that good stuff. And there's so many new faces. So we're getting used to all of these people. And I'm going to talk more about this person. Actually, I might as well, you know what? This brings me into my next topic, Dakota Kai versus Cora Jade. So in terms of like certain people that I'm excited to see where they go from here, like where they start off, you know, in point A and how they're going to get to point B. I got to say Cora Jade is probably on the top of my list of people where I'm like, you know what? I'm excited to see where she's going to be at in 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, because you see certain potential in certain people or just people that you're naturally gravitated to because maybe they have charisma or maybe they just have something that connects with you as a viewer. I got to say that Cora Jade for me is one of those people. Dakota Kai has already been that person for me, but given the fact that she's still not in the main roster kind of makes me worry a little bit. Like, I don't understand why she's not on the main roster. Like, that is just like very confusing to me because if anybody was main roster ready, it was definitely Dakota Kai. So I still haven't been able to fathom that aspect of it, but at least I'm glad that she's not just on NXT, you know, floating around, you know, pretty much doing nothing. They've actually still added to her character and they've you know, still given her something, even though for a second we thought she wasn't gonna be on that brand anymore. But thank you so much to CT for sending in that comment there. But it is going to take a while because I'll be honest, it took me for a lot of people that are on this NXT 2.0 roster, it's taken me a while to essentially get invested in everybody. I'm not invested in everybody because I don't know everybody yet. Like unless you come across as very likable or as very interesting or funny or you're going out there and you're putting on these great matches, unless you're doing that right off the bat and consistently, it's kind of hard to get invested into these characters when you haven't really had that much time with them. It's only been what, like I don't know, a couple of months now, and we got so many new faces so fast that it was not easy to get invested in a lot of these people. And I can think of a lot of them off the top of my head. For example, Andre Chase. He's somebody that's been shown on the show a couple of times now, you know, for a while now, and they've given him stuff, but I'm not interested though. I don't care. And it's the same thing, you know, same thing with Duke Hudson. They've been showing him on the show, but nothing has really come about. Like they do this poker room stuff, which we saw throughout the show tonight, but it's not enough to necessarily get you invested into these people. So unless you're doing something that really, really works and really connects with people, it's been a little bit of a struggle there connecting with certain talents. So that's really where you see which talents have it and which talents don't have it, depending on how fast they can gravitate people. All right, so Dakota Kai versus Cora Jade. Let's get into this match. So this was a rather quick match. Cora kicks off this match hot. She's fiery. She comes out, does a hurricanrana. She does a running knee straight to Dakota Kai's face. But obviously, Dakota Kai is more experienced. Dakota Kai gets the win. It's a rather fast match. Post-match, we see Dakota Kai kind of go into a dark place, all right? So this is what we know so far right now in Dakota Kai in the last couple of months. All right, so she was feuding with Raquel, and people were rooting for her, even though we weren't supposed to be. People were rooting for her. She did not win the NXT Women's Championship. She essentially turned on her friend in hopes of getting the championship, but did not. And then she's gone for a period of time. Everybody thinks she's going to the main roster. That does not happen. She comes back and costs Raquel her match, hitting her on the back with a shovel. And now she sort of, we got to see what's happening here because Raquel wasn't on today's show. So now it's like, all right, how are they going to continue this feud with Raquel and Dakota? Like, where is the ending here? Because Raquel is no longer the champion. So the belt is no longer there. So there's got to be more. And obviously there's the story with the friendship and everything, but they already played to that in the beginning of this. So at some point, when is the Dakota Raquel story going to essentially have its closure. And where is Dakota going to go from here? All right, so post-match, you have Dakota Kai essentially dragging Cora Jade out of the ring, throwing her out of the ring, excuse me, and then afterwards pulling her by the hair and dragging her to the opposite side of the ring. And she goes underneath the apron, she pulls out a table, and she places it on her face. So basically, she gets on top of the ring, and she kind of acts like she's gonna like stomp on her or just do something horrendous to her, to her face with this table on top of her. And Cora Jade is essentially there lifeless. And Dakota Kai has this moment where she's really thinking about what she's about to do. I thought, okay, she's going to go for it and she's just going to immediately, hurt and injure Cora Jade. And this is really where she's going to kind of go into no man's land, kind of the point of no return for Dakota Kai. But instead, she didn't go all the way. Instead, she had that moment, a long moment rather, of hesitation. And she doesn't go in and essentially hurt Cora Jade. Instead, she changes her mind and then she just places Cora Jade's skateboard on top of her stomach. So you kind of see this like struggle that Dakota Kai is facing where like, she's supposed to be a heel because she was a heel the last time she was here. The last time we saw her, she was a heel. She was a heel given the fact that she costed Raquel this match and costed her the championship. And she was a heel for attacking Cora Jade further even after this match. But that moment of hesitation made me wonder whether or not they're going to keep her heel. I do not know where they're going to go with Dakota Kai here. They could have that moment where, you know what? She changes her mind and she's not going to go into this dark place. She's going to be a different person, or they're going to go all the way with it. I don't know, but I kind of feel like their borderline could go any direction right now with Dakota Kai. Personally, I think the people want to root for Dakota Kai, and I think she would be a great like polar opposite to Mandy Rose, since Mandy Rose right now is essentially supposed to be the heel. So Dakota Kai could be that polar opposite, but we already know they're not going to give Dakota Kai the belts right now because it's Mandy Rose's time. So it is going to be interesting to see where they go at Dakota Kai. But either way, I like that they are adding to her character, and I like that they're not making things black and white, that they're sort of like, she's a human. She's not just going to be all evil or all good. And that moment of hesitation basically told us that. So I personally was a fan of this because I liked what it did for Cora Jade. It showed a little bit of what she can do in the ring, and you got sympathy for her. And then in terms of what it did for Dakota Kai, which I just went over right now. But go ahead and send in your thoughts, guys. Do you think that they should continue going down this path of, destruction for Dakota Kai? Or do you think that she should maybe like reassess things and, I don't know, become a fan favorite? Go ahead and send in your thoughts and predictions here. And let's go through a couple of comments here. And this one is from Cameron Mumford, who says, I would hope that they would change Mandy's presentation outside her just looking hot to make her more legit. But then I remember who runs NXT 2.0. We got a comment from Darth who says, Cora Jade has something about her that makes me want to cheer for her. You want to know what that is, Darth? You want to know what that is? Genuine likability. And not a lot of people have that. Cora Jade has that, and I think that they should run with it. But usually when somebody has that and I say they should run with it, they usually don't. They watch, because I said I like Cora Jade and she's likable, watch. In like 2 weeks, she's going to be like the biggest heel, because that's what happens. I hope that doesn't happen to Cora Jade, but she kind of has that, like, she to me has that like Ty Conti vibe, where they're just so likable. That's how I feel about Cora Jade. And, oh, God. Zeno Hour says, want to feel old. Cora Jade was born in 2000. FML. All right, let's go through a couple more comments here. This one is from Mac, who says the post-match went too long and he just wanted it to end. Says, quote, I'm personally not invested in either of them, but it's cool seeing Cora wrestle when she's only a few years older. So in terms of, like, Look, I'm invested in Dakota Kai. And the reason why I'm invested in Dakota Kai was because I was invested in her when she was feuding with Raquel. And so I haven't forgotten about that. So I'm invested in Dakota Kai. She's actually probably one of my favorite women on NXT. Maybe she's definitely up there, one of my favorite women's in WWE, period. But it's just weird, it's just weird. It's just baffling to me. I just wasn't really expecting her to see her on NXT anymore. So I kind of feel like I have to, restart this. It kind of feels like they got to restart this engine on her, Keith Duran says Cora Jade has an AJ Lee vibe to her. I hope she gets more mic time, or Darby Allin like skateboard vignettes to help her flesh out her character a bit more. They should, especially because that's what they're doing on NXT 2.0 now. They're very much relying on these very gimmicky characters, and Duke Hudson's Poker Room, a bunch of other stuff that they've been doing, Andre Chase with his university stuff, and all those others, Tony D'Angelo with his like mafia, I don't even know, stuff. Basically, everybody has something. They could do that with Cora Jade. Same thing, Cora Jade has the same thing that Liv Morgan has. They have a similar vibe too. That's what I was trying to think of. I was like, okay, I said Ty Conti, but she also reminds me so much of Liv Morgan. So yeah. And let's go through a couple more comments. This one is from Sour Machine Gun, who says she did talk about how she ended Raquel with the toxic attraction scene. Maybe a call-up ? Raw women's title picture is weak and could really use her. They could use her on any Raw or SmackDown. And in terms of she did have that backstage moment where Mandy Rose kind of for a second looked like she wanted to sort of befriend her, maybe bring her into Toxic Attraction. But Dakota Kai was just kind of like, I didn't, she basically says like she didn't attack Raquel because of Mandy Rose, because she wanted to help her out. She did it because of her and because she wanted to attack Raquel. So I did like that. So that's why for me, like, she didn't choose to align herself with Mandy Rose. And that's why I do think that there's a chance that she might turn babyface, or that they may be planting the seeds for a babyface turn for Dakota Kai. I do not know, but that plus the hesitation, that added to me on that. And let's go through a couple more comments here. And this one is from Elliot Fletcher, who says, I really like that Cora Jade won some matches before this match. It means more. And let's see. This one, all right, we got there's a couple more comments. This one's from Chair Relax, who says she can do both and still be a fan favorite. She kind of already was. Dakota Kai, she was a heel, and the fans were rooting for her. The people want to root for Dakota Kai. At least that's how it feels. I want to root for Dakota Kai. I do. I really do. All right, guys, let's go ahead and move on from this. I also want to note that the first 25 minutes of NXT were dedicated to pretty much the women. We had a couple of the Duke's Poker Room and that, thrown in there, but I really did like that. I really do got to give a shout out to NXT on this one, because out of a lot of the shows that I watch, they really are dedicating a lot more time to the women than some of the other shows that we're seeing. So I got to give NXT a shout out on that one. I think that they are doing pretty good in terms of actually showcasing women and giving them enough time, which we do need to do more of across the board. All right, everybody. Really quickly, we have a vignette with MSK. They're essentially waiting for the bus, and they're talking about how the MSK name came to be, and they're telling the story. But as the story is about to get to the juicy part, they have a bus roll in, and once the bus rolls out, we missed the actual explanation and the actual answer. And it seems to me, and I need your predictions on this one here, because they're basically saying that they're going to go, I forgot what they said the word was, but they're going to go essentially find the person that's, been in, I don't know if they said been in charge of NXT. I forgot what it was that they said. I forgot the exact verbatim that they used, but I'm wondering if this is going to lead to, I don't know, guys. I feel like I may have totally misread this entire segment, but I don't know if this may be the return of, Triple H or something, William Regal. I don't know, because I don't know the situation, but I kind of, that was my sense of this, but I could be completely wrong, and I may have misread that. But a lot of people here have different thoughts here. Go ahead and send in your thoughts. All right. This is going to be interesting, guys. So we are going to get into this next topic, and I don't really know how I felt about it. I did not hate it, but I was not like, oh my God, I love it either. I didn't hate it and I didn't love it. All right. So I'm a little bit half and half on this one. I'm interested in what you all think. So if you're watching the replay of this, please do send in your comments, because I think this is going to be something interesting to talk about in terms of NXT. As I mentioned earlier, this NXT 2.0 episode felt the most NXT 2.0 episode. And if some of you were like, Denise, what are you talking about? What does that even mean? I think this segment would probably explain that to you. And that was the Zion Quinn, Robert Stone situation. So Robert Stone comes out, and to be honest, I'm like, what is even going on with Robert Stone? I don't even remember what his storyline is. I don't even remember what's been going on with Robert Stone. Same thing with Zion Quinn. I was like, I don't even remember what this is all about, but whatever. So Robert Stone is basically, going off about how everyone is jealous of him. And, to be honest, I don't remember what the hell or why this even started. Like, I watch NXT every week, and I can't even tell you that I even know what was going on with Robert Stone and Zion Quinn. Like, completely out of my brain, forgot. But we then get into this. This then turns into a musical. That's the best way that I can explain it. This turns into a musical because Robert Stone essentially just out of nowhere breaks into this like song and dance number, and he's singing like bougie and bad. I don't know, but I just hear him singing the words over and over, and he's dancing like he's doing sort of like an Egyptian Zumba. I don't know what kind of dancing he's doing. He's got the funky outfit, he's got the shorts, he's got the Andrew Zarian shoes. I mean, he's looking pretty fancy, right? But he's going out there and he's singing and he's dancing, and I'm thinking, what on earth am I watching? Like, what is this? Why am I seeing this? And I didn't know if to like it, if to not to like it. And I will tell you, maybe up until this point, I was thinking, what the frick am I watching, right? And then Zion Quinn comes in, and he basically then starts singing. Shawn Michaels' theme song, "Sexy Boy." And I thought to myself, oh my God, no, what are they going to do here? However, I will say this much. What kind of started off as something very awkward and weird with Robert Stone, I ended up kind of like liking this once Zion Quinn kind of just like broke into this like dancing sexy boy, and he's really, putting in the movement. Like, he really got into this. If you have not seen the clips of this, go and look, because he just like starts getting into it. He's moving his hips like he's Shakira. I mean, he's really, really into this. And I'm just thinking to myself, what the hell are we watching? And there's even a moment where I think Robert Stone tries to like stop him or something. He tries to do something, right? And Zion Quinn ends up grabbing him and like putting him down on his knee, and like that whole dance routine thing. It was a musical number. And I gotta tell you, like, I didn't hate it as much as I thought I was gonna hate it. And I think the reason why I didn't necessarily hate it was because of Zion Quinn. I thought Zion Quinn was put in a situation where he could have literally looked terrible doing this. This could have been very, very like horribly embarrassing for him. And I'm sure a lot of people do probably think this was awful and embarrassing and all of that good stuff, but I didn't necessarily feel that way for him. I actually kind of thought it was funny, and it kind of made me like him a little bit more. Like, prior to this, we didn't even have that much like information on Zion Quinn or who he really was. Like I mentioned at the top of this, these are a lot of new faces that we're just getting to see for the very first time. So this gave Zion Quinn a personality. So now he has something. He can dance and sing to Shawn Michaels' Sexy Boy. Now, there's going to be people here that are listening to this stream, and they're going to be like, what the hell is Denise talking about? This was god awful. All right, if you thought this was awful, I cannot blame you. This is going to be for some people, and this is going to be not for some people, okay? This is not going to go over with a lot of people, okay? For me, I can tolerate it. All right. I'll be like, WTF in the beginning. What am I watching? But if it's okay, if it's decent enough, I can accept it. I can accept it as a form of entertainment and move on. Now, do I want to see this again? Maybe not so much. Whatever, I can tolerate it for now. Immediately after this, we then see Zion Quinn literally toss Robert Stone up into the air like God, so high. So this was hit or miss. You're either gonna like this or you're gonna hate it. Like I said, this was very, very NXT 2.0. Send in your thoughts for those of you here. Zeno Hour says, wrestling Twitter, is it a full-scale civil war over this segment? LOL. I think we're always in a full-scale civil war about pretty much everything. So I'm not surprised whatsoever about this. And this was interesting too, because a lot of people were also kind of upset about the main event that AEW had with, the Elite, dressing up as Ghostbusters and all of that. And I thought to myself, it's a Halloween episode, like whatever, right? But I think if you didn't like that, you're definitely not gonna like this. If you liked that, you might like this too. But if you did not like that, you're definitely not gonna like this. So here we go. This one is from Danny Spears, who says, I loved it. Shows some personality, and OMG, I want to listen again. I think I heard some notes, Denise. LOL. Male Mariah Carey. Oh my God. Let's go through a couple more comments here. And Edwin Pacino says people needed to sing Sexy Boy, though, after all this time. Sarah Machine Gun says they went warp speed the first hour, so many things, and most of them felt like an acid trip. They've been doing that a lot lately. That's been kind of the new format of NXT 2.0, where it's like bam, 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 like a bunch of different stuff happening. And I know this because when NXT 2.0 first started and they were introducing all these people, I was like, oh my God, I had to keep Googling. I was like, who is this person? I don't know this person. Oh my God, who's this person? And I found myself Googling so many different people because they were just like throwing so much information at me. Jeremy Jimenez says this segment gave me a laugh, so I'm okay with it. Matt Kensley says he definitely wants to see more of Zion Quinn. Also saying that the Dirty Dancing lift popped up. Yeah, they did the whole Dirty Dancing thing. God, Jesus. I don't know what to say. I do not know what to say. And all right, guys. So, I mean, in terms of how you guys felt about this, if you're watching the replay, do share your thoughts. If you're listening to the audio version of this, you can go ahead and tweet me and tell me how you felt about it. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Everyone's allowed an opinion. You can always send me your thoughts. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next topic. But before we do, I just want to remind you all, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to F4W Online. If you're listening to the audio version and you're like, man, Denise keeps reminding me every week to head on over to youtube.com and subscribe to F4W Online. And if you haven't yet, make sure you do so. You also have the opportunity to become a member, and there's so much extra and bonus content. So make sure you guys make your way over to youtube.com, F4W Online, and you guys can go ahead and subscribe. We are en route to 100,000 subscribers. We are almost there. All right, moving on. Let's get into, this was a pretty fun match. This was Legado del Fantasma versus Von Wagner and Kyle O'Reilly. This was a fun match, guys. And, man, I honestly, I'm a little irritated. I gotta say, I'm a little irritated because I feel like anytime, I don't know how to word this, but there needs to be more conversation, more people out there, that watch NXT along, with me and everybody here who watched. There needs to be more people talking about how good Legado del Fantasma is. All right, I'm tired of them being underrated, okay? I'm going to start this right now. Legado del Fantasma is underrated, okay? Raul Mendoza, Joaquin Wild, man, they are so good as a tag team, and I legit kind of feel like they've been consistently overlooked over and over again. They've been adding so much to Santos Escobar. Like when Santos Escobar was NXT Cruiserweight champion and doing his whole thing, they added so much to his reign as champion, and they've hung in there with Santos Escobar, and they played their part so well when they were feuding with Hit Row. And now, for example, they go into this match with Von Wagner and Kyle O'Reilly, and you all know, if you've been listening to the show, I'm not necessarily the biggest Von Wagner fan. You already know that. I will say this was the match that I thought that Von Wagner looked the most impressive because he looked more comfortable in the ring today. And this was a fun match. They were going back and forth, hitting all their spots. I really enjoyed it, honestly. I thought that Legado Del Fantasma looked great. I thought Von Wagner looked great. Kyle O'Reilly always looks great in the ring. Legado del Fantasma ended up getting the win, but it's really one of those things where I honestly feel like they're underrated and it bums me out. And I think more people need to talk about how good they are. So from now on, I'm going to make sure to point this out every single show. Let's go through a couple of comments here. This one is from Danny, who says he agrees they have been so good. They deserve so much. And hell yeah. Everybody basically saying that this was an entertaining match and that Legado is money, because they are. They legitimately are, but they just keep getting overlooked, man. They keep getting overlooked. Danny Spears says Von Wagner is boring. # free Kyle. Look, I feel bad for Von Wagner. He was put in a tough spot when he got brought into NXT, just thrown into that freaking 4-way out of the blue, man. I feel bad for him. I felt bad for him that day, but the last couple of times, I really wasn't all that invested in what he was doing. And today I may be reaching, but I was invested in what he did today. I enjoyed his part in this match. So I'm not even going to bury him or say anything like that, because he was perfectly fine during this match. I just hope if he keeps doing stuff like this and keeps having matches like this with people, I'm good. But other than that, there really isn't anything else there just yet. Let's go through a couple of let's actually go in through the next comments, the next topic here. Andre Chase versus Braun Breaker. Where do I start, guys? Where do I start with this? I don't know where to start. Andre Chase comes out, the mic's not working, he gets another mic, he starts going off about how I don't even know what he's talking about. He's talking about the people calling him a coward. And I'm like, I don't even remember people calling you a coward. But he says that people in social media are calling him a coward. So I typed into the Twitter search bar, Andre Chase coward. And there was 5 tweets. And they were all from tonight. So absolutely nobody's calling Andre Chase a coward. But whatever. Let's suspend the disbelief. Let's roll with the storyline here. So we end up getting Braun Breaker versus Andre Chase. And I'm thinking to myself, oh no. This is what they're doing with Braun Breaker now. He went from wrestling Tommaso Ciampa in the main event to possibly becoming the NXT champion. So all of a sudden he's in a match with Andre Chase. All right, great. This is where we're at. Fine. All right. I wanted to see a squash, okay? And for the most part, this was a squash. However, this should have been a faster... Oh, I didn't mean to clap that loud. This should have been a faster squash and a more impressive squash. I didn't think the squash was that impressive. I did not want to see Andre Chase get any sort of offense in on Braun Breaker, and he kind of did a little bit, just a tad bit. It was enough for me to go, no, I don't want to see that. I wanted to see Braun Breaker come out and kill Andre Chase, all right? There's no reason why Braun Breaker should even be struggling remotely with Andre Chase. So I'm sorry. I was not really that big of a fan of this one. Post-match, we do get a Braun Breaker promo, and he basically says that he failed at defeating Tommaso Ciampa, says that Tommaso Ciampa took advantage of his inexperience, but that Tommaso Ciampa is the man. And then he goes on to say that he's going to try again, that he's going to get another shot, or he's going to die trying. Some good stuff there. And random, super freaking random, we had a flirtatious backstage segment. Now, if you did not watch the show and you're probably thinking, Denise, we've been seeing a lot of like flirtation. We've been seeing, the Indie Dexter thing. We saw the Cora and Trey Baxter, I think. Yeah, them. We've been seeing a lot of like, all that good stuff, right? Well, we got another one. And this one was too random for me. I was like, what am I watching right now? Should I cover my eyes? Mom, where's mom? Cover my eyes, whatever. Toxic Attraction. Toxic Attraction and Imperium. I repeat, Toxic Attraction and Imperium. Gigi Dolan, she gets her rose and she just like, I forget who she rubs in the face, but she rubs one of them in the face with the little rose, right? And they start talking amongst themselves about how like America has like that one good thing, basically saying it's the women. And I was just like, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, out of all of the romance stuff that they've done on NXT, this was the one that made me laugh the loudest, okay? I thought this was so freaking random, and it was probably one of my favorite things on the entire episode of NXT in terms of the storylines, because it was so random, it made me feel uncomfortable, and it made me laugh so hard. So you know what? I'm here for, Gigi Dolan and JC Jane trying to get at Imperium. I liked that. I thought it was hilarious. So I was a fan of this. I didn't hate this at all. And we got some inappropriate comments that I will not be reading in the chat, but I laughed. All right. We then get Lashing Out with Lash Legend. Tony D'Angelo finally gets his spot on the show. As you all know, she didn't want him on his on the show. She lied to him and essentially said that she was going to get him on the show, but they didn't get him on the show. So he ended up kidnapping Mark, the producer, who was in his trunk. And then afterwards, he gets interviewed by Samantha Irving, basically asking what the hell is going on. And he basically says, like, what are you, like a Fed? Like, are you a snitch? Like, why do you want to know? And he basically tells her, don't worry about it. So then all of a sudden this week, he's, he finally gets a spot on the show with Lash Legend. And she's basically, sort of questioning him about Mark, the producer. And then he basically says, nothing really went on there. And then they actually bring out Mark, the producer. And poor Mark, the producer's in there in a sling, looking like a dork, all scared, all sad and stuff. And Tony D'Angelo is basically forcing him to basically act like nothing happened. And in the end, the producer goes off and Tony D'Angelo ends up paying off Lash Legend. And she says, yay, like this is money for my lashes. So I didn't hate this. This was funny. I liked this. I actually really enjoyed the chemistry between Lash Legend and Tony D'Angelo. I thought they worked pretty well together. So shout out to them. This was good stuff. I was a fan of this. We got a super chat. Thank you so much to Brandon Charles Powell for sending this in, who says, Walter should have interrupted all of this flirting. Dude, I don't know, man. At the end of the day, Walter is a man, okay? Toxic Attraction. They could have easily, that would have been hilarious, actually, if Toxic Attraction would have had a moment like that with Walter, because Walter's like this big, scary, mother effer, and all of a sudden you see him like weak in the knees, pink blush on the cheeks. That would have been great, actually. Now I kind of want to see that. Thanks a lot, Brandon. Now I want to see that. But thank you so much for sending in that super chat. All right, guys, here we go. Let's get into, we got a couple more things, so I'm going to try to get through them fast. And this one is Solo Sikoa versus Jeet Rama. And Jeet Rama, this was his debut NXT match. To be honest, I didn't know that much about Jeet Rama. I didn't even remember that he was the one that faced AJ Styles in that Superstar Spectacle show. And I watched that show. I watched that match, but I kind of forgot, to be honest. So I refreshed my memory when I was Googling him. And he's actually been he's been in the Performance Center since 2015, okay? And that's kind of a long time. And he's also not necessarily... It's interesting because, a lot of the reports that came out about this NXT 2.0 was basically how they wanted, young talent and, that sort of stuff. So it was a little interesting to me that I didn't realize that Jeet Rama was 40 years old already. I didn't know. I didn't know how old he was. Again, I didn't even remember much about him. But he's been with the PC since 2015. He's 40. really the only thing that I think people really actually had some praise for was that match that he had with AJ Styles. But then again, it's AJ Styles. AJ Styles can have a freaking great match with my freaking bottle of coconut water. So it's like, it's AJ Styles, but take it for what you will. This past October, he made his debut on 205 Live. He lost against Boa, and then he lost in a squash match against Solo Sikoa. If we're here for my Halloween Havoc review show, you all know what I thought about that Solo Sikoa debut. I really kind of felt like the creative wasn't really there for it, and so far, based on what we're seeing with Solo Sikoa, even after his debut, I kind of feel like they maybe brought him in with no real plan for him. It kind of feels like they're not really doing anything out of the box with him. He's kind of just like coming in, okay, great, but nothing really creative, at least in my opinion. So I do wish they got a little bit more creative with Solo Sikoa. That was my issue with his debut and how he came into Halloween Havoc and all of that, the whole thing with LA Knight and everything. That didn't seem very creative to me. And this kind of just fell short again. So unfortunately, they haven't really done much for me to necessarily be interested in Solo Sikoa, other than the fact that he's the third Uso. That's the only reason why I'm interested. Thank you so much to Mega Flint for sending in a super chat along with a compliment saying, "Hi, Denise, you look amazing today. NXT was awesome." Thank you. I appreciate it. I actually brushed my hair, actually fixed my face, and I don't have, all this Halloween stuff on my face. So that helps out a whole lot. After this, we got a toxic masculinity vignette. Briggs and Jensen. This is kind of weird. They're basically just going off about how they're men and talking about their daddies and how their daddies raised them. And I'm thinking, all right, cool. They're doing the when men were men thing. I was like, all right, I'm here for that. I don't mind that. And then I didn't like the one line at the end, though, because I kind of thought that it took away from them, where they start saying something along the lines of, we may not always win, but we always make you second guess. I was like, what? What does that even mean? You don't want to tell everybody we don't always win. Don't tell the people that. Lie to us. Lie to us. I didn't like that line. Other than that, I liked everything else that they did here. They're those, men are men guys. I like that. That's fine. All right. Boa versus Grayson Waller. Guys, I was complaining about this. I forgot what show it was. One of my NXT post shows. Maybe the last one, maybe the one before that. If you were here, you probably remember basically me saying that Grayson Waller, out of all of these guys that they've been bringing in on NXT, Grayson Waller has actually been the one that has caught my attention based on his in-ring work. And they're not necessarily doing let me take that back. They did sort of do goofy stuff with him on Halloween Havoc, but for the most part, I like what they've been doing with Grayson Waller, except for the fact that they've been having him lose left and right. He's probably one of the ones that has been the most interesting to me in the ring, and he's also been the one taking L's left and right. The man has already lost to Duke Hudson, LA Knight, and then they had him lose today to Boa. I'm sorry. And then even last week, the whole loss to LA Knight shouldn't have even happened because he ended up being the host of the show. And that's what was at stake for that match. So I kind of feel like they need to give Grayson Waller some wins, man. He's actually somebody that I think that they have something with in terms of actually being able to put on exciting matches. And they just have him keep losing to all these people that I'm just like, why? At least make it make sense. So that's all I really have to say about that. Let's go in through Carmelo Hayes and Tommaso Ciampa. They end up having a back and forth in the ring. Carmelo basically telling him that he's the A champion now and that Tommaso Ciampa is essentially going to have to take a back seat to him. I do not mind this whatsoever for Carmelo Hayes. I think he should be coming out here. He should be cocky. He should be confident. That's good stuff there. But let's get into this overall main event that we had. We had Dexter Lumis and Johnny Gargano versus Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams, who I've been a fan of Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams. I think kind of from the very beginning. I've been honestly, and I know people are gonna lose. I really like them. All right, I'm gonna move on, but here we go. This match kicks off essentially with both Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes essentially being afraid of Dexter Lumis. It's fine. I like the way that they kicked off this match. I thought it just added to their personalities, and it also adds to the whole them being afraid of Dexter Lumis, the week prior when they were going to his house and Johnny Gargano made it all haunted and all of that. So I like this. But as this match progressed, the crowd really got into this match, and they really got into Dexter Lumis essentially running rampant on Carmelo Hayes. That was fun. And while I was watching this match, I started thinking to myself, one of the matches that I really, really want to see on NXT 2.0 is Legado del Fantasma versus Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes. At some point, they need to do that because I'm going to be really interested in that. But anyways, we see Dexter and Gargano hit both of these guys with a double super kick. That was fun. We then see Lumis go to the top rope. He hits the elbow. He goes for the pin, but it ends up being a 2 count. After this, we see Gargano and Carmelo Hayes exchange chops with one another. That was fun. And then when the referee isn't looking, Trick Williams ends up using his shoe and hits Johnny Gargano. And so, he hit Johnny Gargano. He hit Johnny Gargano with the shoe when he wasn't looking. So then Johnny Gargano literally does a dive right onto him. And so that takes him out. But while we're back in the ring, this essentially allows Carmelo Hayes to go to the top rope, do essentially a leg drop onto Lumis to get the actual win in this match. And they barely got the win because Johnny Gargano was already up on his feet and trying to get back into the ring to break up the pin, but he didn't make it on time. So they kind of just got away with that victory. I liked this. This was a fun match. I'm glad that they gave Hayes and Williams the win because they needed it. And, given that Carmelo Hayes is your NXT North American champion, they got to give him a little something, And I thought they did, him going essentially, face to face, on the mic with Tommaso Ciampa. That was good. And then getting this win, even if they just barely escaped it, I'm glad that they got this win. So this was pretty fun. Nick Grasso asks, what happened to Timothy Thatcher and Pete Dunne? Dude, I don't know. We haven't seen Pete Dunne since Ridge Holland left. Right? We haven't seen Pete Dunne since Ridge Holland left. Yeah, no, we haven't. Timothy Thatcher, damn, I don't even remember the last time we saw Timothy Thatcher. Well, he was teaming with Ciampa. Yeah, I don't even remember. But it's just one of those things where it's like, I was talking about this. Certain guys, they just don't fit into this new direction that NXT is going in. And that's not, obviously not a knock on them. It's just that's the new direction that they're going in. And unless they find something for them to do in a way for them to fit into this new format and into this new style of what they're doing, then we're not going to necessarily see them on their shows, So hopefully they do find something there. For both Thatcher and Pete Dunne, because I'm a fan of both of them, especially Pete Dunne. Pete Dunne is championship material. But there you go. And alrighty, guys. Let me see what else we got here. Next week, we're going to be seeing Jiro and Kushida versus the Creed brothers. That should be really fun. And then we're also getting that 6-woman tag, Toxic Attraction versus Io, Kaden, and Casey. But other than that, everybody, that was literally NXT 2.0 here today. I will be back tomorrow to talk about AEW Dynamite. That's my most popular show of the week. So make sure you guys come in. Make sure you guys tune in. Also, if you did not know, I did do an interview with Ruby Soho. If you haven't checked that out, check out that interview with Ruby Soho. It's a really good interview. It's a nice half-hour conversation. It's up on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Denise Salcedo, where we talk about, the TBS Women's Championship Tournament. We talk about, her joining AEW, working with Britt Baker, and so much more. We talk about concerts, music, restaurants, all of that good stuff. It's a really fun conversation. So make sure you guys check that out. Additionally, if you haven't already, make sure to follow me on Twitter and/or on Instagram @_Denise Salcedo. I am always on Twitter. I'm always on there, essentially, just chatting it up with people. So make sure you guys hit me up on there. Other than that, I will see you tomorrow night for AEW Dynamite. Good night, everybody.